Well, hey guys, welcome to our webinar today regarding ChromeOS, Citrix, and modernizing or modernized, I'll say, virtual computing with those two companies and a couple of very important products that make that up. I, Andy Whiteside, am the founder of XenTegra. We're a Citrix and Google partner. We are what I call a value-added reseller. We are a value-added reseller. And we do things like this where we bring solution education to market so that people can get educated on what these two great companies have done together in order to solve challenges that you guys either know you have, which I bet a lot of you know you have, and then also highlight some challenges that you might not know you have. And these two products, these two companies with their specific products that we're going to talk about today, help to make a solution that enables you to solve those challenges in a way that creates a high fidelity user experience and a secure solution that really changes the game. Do you want to highlight for the group here? This conversation, I start a lot of these conversations with Jeremy, Andrea. These are my guest hosts, Jeremy Myers with Citrix, Andrea Swanson with Google Citrix. Andrea will explain her role here in just a few minutes. But guys, how's it going?
Doing all right, Andy. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Great to have us. Thank you.
So I told you I would start off with this slide. This is my gotcha slide around thin clients. And I got caught up in this too in the very beginning. While I was at Citrix, I was one of the guys that probably had some of the early conversations around zero clients, only to find out later in the real world that I had been misled. So let's go through this conversation. Jeremy, Andrea, I've got two pictures on the screen. The first one is boneless buffalo wings. The bottom is a thin zero client. What do these two things have in common?
Well, for starters, let's destroy this myth. There's no such thing as boneless chicken wings. That is a fallacy. That is made up. But how does that
Real quick, when I go with my friends to one of the buffalo places, if they got boneless wings, you know what I order? I love boneless wings. And everybody looks at me like I'm an idiot. Man, I don't want to have to nibble on the thing. I want to pop that sucker in and eat it. I love boneless.
Yeah, it's so bread. It's so much bread. There's little chicken. There's nothing. What is that? Let's be honest.
And I actually love zero clients when they make sense, but the time they make sense is so minute that you almost can never implement a zero client. And I'll explain why here in a second. But Andrew, Jeremy, what do these, oh, I should tell you this. I thought about this a few days ago because I heard somebody was suing Buffalo Wild Wings because their boneless wings aren't real wings. And he thought it gave him an opportunity to go get some money out of them.
Wait, so if it's not real wings, what are they? Like, is it not real meat? What is it?
Well, I guess these days it could be artificial meat or some type of vegan meat for sure.
Okay. We won't go there then. That's fair.
We don't have to go there. Andrew, what do these two things have in common?
Well, I think the zero client, they usually say that it has no operating system on it. So maybe that's it.
So let me try this with you guys. So boneless buffalo wings are not real wings. They're actually, some type of breaded breast meat at best. Worst case scenario, it's whatever was left over with, some breading and some sauce on it. And zero clients have been positioned for the last 15 years, like literally 15 years, to be an endpoint with zero operating system, zero firmware. Well, the truth is, it really does have firmware. That's what controls the hardware. And it does have a thinner version of a thin OS operating system with all the other components or all the other competing products ripped out. So for example, the presentation layer vendor, Citrix, VMware, whatever, would be there, their agent would be there, and everybody else would be taken out. And what that really did was it was a misleading thing by marketing people to get people to buy into an ecosystem they could not get out of unless they totally replaced all their endpoints. My answer to you guys is boneless wings are a lie, and zero clients, the way they've been positioned for the last 15 years, are also a lie. And where that ties in today's conversation is two things. Number one, XenTegra is a partner that sees through the lies and tries to make sure that we tell you the truth on what really works in your environment to prevent you from getting a situation like we've seen customers in several times where they got it, where they're vendor locked in because of the endpoints, the hardware. Hardware should not be our challenge these days. It should be software that should be what enables us to move forward. But sometimes hardware is used to lock us in. So one, make sure you guys know that there is a difference and conquer that one. And two, to make sure you're talking to partners who really try to see through what your real needs are and don't just position something that we think we can sell you. We really want to bring solutions that make sense in the long run, not the short run, to our customers. And that's what XenTegra is. And if you find we're not, let us know, because that's what we're supposed to be. And that's the company that we built. So why that makes sense today, in a minute, we're going to be talking about the Google Chrome OS. The Google Chrome OS is one of the most flexible endpoint operating systems on the market, because if you need to go SaaS, you can go SaaS. If you need to go published apps, you can go published apps. If you need to go server desktop, client desktop, you go those direction. You can go to any cloud you want. It doesn't have to be Google. It can be any cloud. That endpoint is very capable of connecting to lots of different scenarios, the scenario you have today and in the future. We'll talk about that more in a minute. All right, so quick marketing from us, and this is also not a lie, and I am super proud of this. This year in our workhasnoboundaries.com giveaway, we're giving away 2 Ford Broncos. Last year was 1, this year's 2, and we really do give these away. When I started doing research on what other companies do, they gave away a Tesla, they gave away a Jeep. Well, truth is, what they did is they gave you a 1-year lease to a Tesla, a 1-year lease to a Jeep. Guys, I paid full price for these things, and whoever wins this is going to get this 1 or 2. Somebody's going to get one, somebody's going to get the other. And if you can't take that, you get a donation to a charity of similar amounts or some form of amount. And it's just, you know, one of our campaigns we use to get people to talk to us. Go to workhasnoboundaries.com, register to take a meeting with us and Google, and then let's talk about, you know, one-on-one what these solutions can bring to you guys. So who is XenTegra? We are a value-added reseller. We sell products, software, hardware that solve challenges, make up solutions. We do that and help customers get to the finish line. And I do mean the finish line. Way too often people buy technologies with the idea they're going to do X, Y, and Z with it. They might get X done, kinda. And then there's no investment back from the people who sold them whatever they bought in the beginning. What we do is we try to hold your hand the entire way, challenge you into solutions. We're doing a lot with ServiceNow right now, where people buy ServiceNow and they never integrate it with Citrix. They never integrate it with their Google environment. We want to make sure you take that thing and you continue to get value and more value and more value out of it. That's where the solutions and services come in. So professional services around that, as well as managed services around that. And the one thing that I would want to super highlight in this conversation, it's our 3rd bullet down here, and that is support contracts that go either along with the managed services and or hosting, or they just, in lieu of, you get support contracts. And specifically in this case around Citrix, I love what Citrix does with their elevated support offerings, but the truth is, for a lot of customers, and maybe a lot of you guys listening today, you cannot afford it. You'd love to have it. And so the next best thing in my world is to be able to offer that from a XenTegra contract that includes Citrix, it includes Google, it includes other technologies, but it certainly allows you to have a support contract beyond what you get with a vendor. And maybe really important, and Jeremy, I'm sure you've seen this, where customers need a support that allows you to end-to-end support it. So if it's a Google issue, we think, or a Citrix issue, we think, or a hypervisor issue, we think, if you have a support contract from us, we're going to help you with all 3 to solve that challenge, versus pointing fingers the other direction and tell you to go solve it or not and come back to me when you learn more about it. I'll highlight the quote in the right-hand corner. This is truly the XenTegra way, is to create a community of customers, vendors, employees, educate, evangelize, spend time with, socialize within that community. And that is our business model. That is really how business was done for the first, I don't know, thousands of years, literally thousands of years. And then with the last 100 years or slightly more, investors have started running businesses, which is fine. I get it. It's about making money. But we don't have investors at all. And so that allows us to act like an old school business that really takes value in helping customers and having long-term customers for life as a goal. I was asked coming into this presentation to talk about the world of virtual compute, and I kind of turned that into a conversation around digital workspace. And so I wanted to highlight Citrix specifically, because Citrix does the most of the virtual compute than any other product on the planet. And that goes in the following ways. First of all, at the left-hand side, we're talking about the device that we're interacting with, which, let's be honest, there's a user using that device. So think about that laptop I've got on the left-hand side, the Chromebook, with an end user in front of it. It's important that we make both of those things happy. The happy device will lead to a happy user, and understanding their needs is uber important. But where Citrix comes in on the digital workspace side is managing the endpoint, which is part of that story. It is providing access to those SaaS-based applications. By the way, one of the most important SaaS-based applications that we're going to provide access to is the Google Workspace. So we've got Google on the endpoint, we've got Google on the back end on the workspace side. We're providing access to that. We're monitoring, we're enabling that access. We're adding a layer of security to that access. And then we've got the thing that Citrix has been known for forever, which is the idea we're providing access to presented apps and presented desktops. Jeremy, you probably had me do this for you in the past. What the most widely used application on the planet is?
Windows Desktop.
Windows Desktop. So over on the right-hand side, I've got Windows. On the left-hand side, in some cases, I've got Windows again. Well, why would I do that? Why would I use Windows to connect to Windows? Let's use something smarter, something easier to manage, something more secure, something less attacked on the left-hand side if we're just going to go to the back end and access legacy x86 applications. Two more to talk about. One would be browsers and the browser applications. Citrix has a secure browser, also known as the Citrix Enterprise Browser today. They also have the Enterprise Browser, secure browser service, which is where I can connect to a Chrome browser running on a Linux-based desktop inside the cloud. So I completely obfuscate and mitigate any idea that whatever's happening within that browser is impacting that endpoint. Super secure and effective way to get this done. And finally, collaborative type services, whether it's unified communications or workspace collaboration around, files and things, all that coming through a digital workspace. That is what the modern world of virtual compute looks like. Now, I highly encourage people listening to kind of seek out us and have some of these conversations. Jeremy, when you talk to a customer today, even some that you've had and known for 10 plus years, do they see it this holistically, or are they really just stuck in virtual apps and desktops only?
A lot, if not most, are stuck in virtual apps and desktops only. Yeah, for sure. Maybe storage apps, because that's been a big part of the business, but holistically, no.
And I don't want to mitigate that. If you're successfully virtual app and virtual desktoping your way into a digital workspace, a lot of our customers do that. But I want to make sure you're educated on what all the options are, because until you see all the options, you might not know which option is best for you to create whatever solution you have. And that may not be holistically for a whole company. That may be that individual groups within the company need all of this, and some groups within the company may need some subset of this, including just a VDI desktop or a published app. So with that, I'm going to introduce Andrea Swanson. Andrea comes to us from Google. Andrea has a long history of computing specifically around virtualization and security. Andrea, how's it going?
Great. Thanks, Andy, for having us today. I'm excited to talk to you guys a little bit about your modernization with Citrix and ChromeOS. Andy, I think I'm going to go ahead and take over here. And
I left out one piece on this slide before. When it comes to Google, so Google has one of the most comprehensive solutions around this digital workspace stack. And the thing it has that the one other guy that's in this space with them doesn't have is that legacy security vulnerability on the endpoint. So that's why this conversation is super relevant, that we enable digital workspace, but we mitigate that overlap of the same technology on the endpoint, which causes that edge security concern that Andrea is getting ready to go into in more detail. Oh, and I also want to point out the piece I missed also on the back end. Google has Google Cloud, GCP. So you've got the endpoint covered. You've got the SaaS, workspace piece covered as part of its native self, as well as part of the Citrix story. And then you've got a very, very capable, extremely cost-effective cloud technology to integrate with all this in Google GCP for your infrastructure needs. It really is one of the most compelling stories in the Citrix world, and that's why we have this going on today. Sorry, Andrea. Sorry, I want to make sure I hit that point.
No problem. I'm
So Andrea, tell us a little bit about yourself personally before we jump into the content. Hey, guys, can you hear her? I can't.
We lost your voice, Andrea. Lost your audio. Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We can. We lost your desktop too.
We don't see the slides.
Okay, we're having a great day today.
There you go. We got it.
Oh, now you're on mute.
So Andrea, I think we got a little challenge here. I'm going to go back to running the slides and you can talk over top of them.
Can you hear me now?
We can, but when you share your screen, we can't. So I'm going to run the slides.
No
Andrea,
problem.
tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. Hi, my name is Andrea Swanson. I'm the global pre-sales engineer here with Citrix, and I am specializing solely on Google Chrome OS. And so a little bit about me, I have about 23 years in IT. Oh, that's a little dating myself. I started my career here in telecom, everything from cellular phones to fat pipe internets. Ventured out after that into building out data centers for customers. And then I got started in my security field, where I spent 10 years mostly in my career. Everything from advanced analytics to BI, as well as artificial intelligence. And then the last 3 years, I've been with the virtualization space with Google and Citrix and helping customers build out their environments and getting this amazing service to work for our customers.
And it really has come a long way to the point now where it's truly a native offering from both companies together. Okay.
All right. So with today's agenda, kind of let you guys know a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. Andy went over the overview of virtualization and compute and how it works. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the mechanics with Citrix Workspace and ChromeOS, as well as how the joint solution of Citrix and ChromeOS gets put together. And then Andy's going to talk to you a little bit about how you might get started with the Citrix and ChromeOS journey through XenTegra. All right, so today I'm going to talk to you guys through the mechanics of Citrix and ChromeOS and what that means to your organization and how you can take advantage of XenTegra's complementary assessment that Andy spoke of earlier. During our journey to the cloud, Citrix and Google heard many of the voices of our customers, that you wanted the core value of our solutions to be importance of the hybrid flexibility and customer choice. So for example, it's enabling your ability to deploy and manage applications, desktop workloads from anywhere on any premise, whether it be in the cloud or both indefinitely as you see fit while using any endpoint. And for today's session, I'm going to be focusing on ChromeOS and Chromebooks with Citrix. But do know you do have another option, and that's ChromeOS Flex, where you can revitalize your old endpoints and get the power of ChromeOS at your fingertips. If you have any questions about this, Andy will be talking about ChromeOS Flex later on in this presentation and be happy to help you turn your old devices into fresh new ChromeOS devices. So let's explore a little bit about how secure, seamless access to any app on any ChromeOS device from any location actually works. As you can see, the deployment that is set up here is completely cloud-based. We're using both Citrix and Google Cloud Services for management and administration of the solutions. There are multiple advantages for choosing Citrix and ChromeOS, mostly because you are going to have the security and simplicity to manage the Chrome devices from anywhere. So that means you have a total control of your devices and even have the possibility to wipe a device remotely in less than a minute. And all the information stays on the cloud environment.
So Andrea, this is truly a born in the cloud, native cloud experience managing the Google ecosystem.
That is true. Absolutely.
Guys, that's awesome to have that, not to have to be retooled for the cloud, but to be born in the cloud.
It also comes with advanced multi-layered security that Andy had mentioned before. This is where we shine. While ChromeOS devices are designed or ready to be secure, Citrix adds that extra layer of secure internet access. adding the ability to analyze all the internet traffic in the device while protecting it in real time from anywhere. You can access any app in the enterprise app via VPN-less access to a Windows or Linux virtual apps environment, desktop as a service, SaaS environment, and internal web apps through Citrix Workspace. And then, as always, the best feature is fast zero-touch deployment experience in the market. As an end user, you just need to turn on the Chromebook, connect the Wi-Fi, and log into your corporate user credentials. The device then will get all the settings from both Google and Citrix's cloud.
So Andrea, I'm on the slide now. Can you see which slide I'm on?
Oh, yep, you're one ahead of me.
Okay, awesome.
Oh, two ahead of me. Sorry, go back one. Keep going. Keep going. Sorry. Yep, there we are. So let's talk about the Google Admin Council and what this brings to you guys as customers. Here, IT will be able to manage the user's Google ID directory, structuralize the operational units. You can devise user groups and configure 750 plus policies and settings and features to keep your environment safe and secure. Also within the Management Console, you'll be able to manage licenses by assigning and unassigning users. You can quickly pull up reports to provide for audits, designate progressive web apps and SaaS applications that users can either download themselves or have IT approved from the Play Store or the Chrome Web Store. You can set up advanced security settings so that you can be sure your data from your company does not end up in the wrong hands. And you can also make Chrome the default browser setting or choose from others if you choose. For today's schedule, we're going to take a look a little bit into the Google Admin Council. And what that'll look like is I'm going to talk about enrolling devices, a few security settings, some forced re-enrollment and power washing, some auto updates, as well as printing. And next slide, please.
Andrea, what application do I have to install to do all this?
You don't have to install any application. It is all run from the Management Console.
And as a bunch of former legacy x86 guys, that is music to our ears.
Absolutely.
Jeremy, any comments around this before we move on?
No. I guess the real question is, so I'm logging in. I got a fresh Chromebook. I'm logging in with my Google ID. All of the associations with who I am and policies just get pushed out the first time I log in. Fresh out of the box.
Great question. So the way it works is we've actually talked to a lot of our customers, and they gave us ideas on what policies that they already wanted. So there's Google inherited policies that are built in that are already set up for you, or IT can go through and customize any of those options organizationally. So whether they have an IT organization, a sales organization, and a marketing organization, you can set up different policies for each organizational unit.
Got it. So, an organization like Andy, so XenTegra is very distributed. They've got folks all over the US, all over Canada, heck, all over the world now, right? So Andy can drop ship a Chromebook or any Flex OS device anywhere in the world out of the box. They open it up, log in with the IDs, and any of the policies he needs just drops on that device the first time they log in.
Yep. The great thing about it is all they need is a Wi-Fi connection and their user credentials to sign in. And their applications are already set up with their desktop on Citrix and managed completely by the IT group.
Are these device policies or user policies?
You can do both. There are device policies and there are user policies. So it depends upon what IT would like to choose.
And you can literally do both at the same time and have one circumvent the other if you choose to make it happen.
Yes.
That's all that native through a browser and a cloud service, guys. That is awesome.
All right. So what you're seeing here is a glimpse into the Google Admin Console. And for sake, I didn't want to do a demo just in case the internet went crazy on me. So what you're seeing here is how to actually enroll a device from IT's standpoint. Now, if you're enrolling a device manually, this would be done by starting on the home page that you see on the left-hand side, selecting devices, going to Chrome, apps and extensions, and then user and browser section. As Andy was mentioning before, this is set up solely for the user so that the user and browser section is set up so it's contributed to the device. Now, IT has the ability to work with XenTegra to utilize the service I talked about before with zero-touch enrollment, or your team can actually manually enroll devices by placing the devices in the organizational unit they choose if you give them that access. You can set up as many organizational units as needed that would fit your company's size. And as I explained before, XenTegra has many different organizational units and they are global. So with that, they can set their policies up however they choose for their sales team versus their marketing team versus their IT team. IT has the power to enroll these devices as needed. And the great thing about this is that all the settings have been pre-configured before the actual end user gets the device. But if you don't want the hassle of setting all that up, definitely check out Zero Touch Enrollment. That might actually benefit your organization with XenTegra.
So a quick question, Andrea. So, a lot of this out of the box is probably based on like a Google identity. What if I've got an existing directory? Can I sync over my organizational units and things like that into this directory? So a lot of these organizational units I've got set up will just map over.
Great question. So yes, you can. And single sign-on options are an option with multi-factor authentication. So if you've already got these organizational setups, it can be very easy to just deploy and set up and configure. Within the settings portion, there is a bulk upload option too, as well, to help set up options if you've already got all these pre-configured. And this is where actually Andy's team comes into play, because with that zero touch enrollment, you can set up all those features, give them those bulk enrollments. They can zero touch those devices ahead of time and get those out to the end users so that when they're in their hands, all they have to do is connect to Wi-Fi and get started on their actual Chromebooks.
Hey, Andrea, on the Google side, what firewall ports and things do I need to open up?
Great question. You don't need to. So the security settings are baked in, and trust me, there are layers upon layers of security, not just in Google side, but there's layers upon layers for the Citrix side as well.
Yeah, again, just an example of when this is natively cloud-born and integrated, things that would take a long time to set up, pay a lot of consulting fees, you can do yourself in a matter of minutes.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk about a few security features, because obviously security is one of the main topics and reasons why customers don't choose to go with a new solution set. There are many security settings that you can choose within the admin console. I'm going to focus on two right here. One of them is incognito mode. Why this is important is because a lot of times organizations don't want their users being able to access the internet for what they can't see, right? And so incognito mode can actually be disabled on all the devices so that they're only using the secure browser that your organization chooses. Also, within the browser history, you can actually set up that you want to be able to see those browser histories, and you can also print reports from them as well.
So, Andrea, this is probably not a stretch to say, but the fact that we're controlling the operating system that's running on whatever piece of hardware it's running on, and we have real insight into this native browser that's built into it, is probably a great 1-2 punch when it comes to security.
Yes, absolutely. And the great thing is like I said, security settings are kind of already inherited, and I'll kind of explain that on some of the more slides coming forward. Just as you'll see with here, with forced enrollment and power washing options, it's another way that IT has the power in their hands. And this is what Andy has been talking about. You don't want to just leave corporate data out there, right, from your organization, because leaks can end up with really bad situations for your company. So let's say Jack inside of your organization is taking a work trip and just happens to leave his device at security and doesn't realize till he's on the plane to his next destination that he left his laptop in security. You have many different options here, and this is where the power control comes in. IT, he can easily message IT and let them know that he needs the device power washed, or IT can give him authority to do it straight from his phone and have the option to completely power wash the device. But here's the big thing. Jack has a big presentation today, and that's the reason when he was on the plane to go deliver this presentation. He has one of two options. He can either use an existing device that is already within the customer's hands that he was going to see and easily flex that device quickly so that he has access to his environment, or he can go expense a Chromebook. The great part about this is that when he does this, IT has the ability to let him enroll that device himself if he needs to. And once he re-enrolls the device, all those things that he had as far as settings go, the access to his drive, the access to his email, the access to his slides, to his presentation, is actually still standing right in front of him, and he's able to deliver his service to his customer by showing the presentation.
Now, Andrea, you just said something really quick that maybe this is what Andy's going to cover later, where you said he could either go buy a Chromebook or you said flex a device. Is that, I mean, I guess we'll take a look and see what that looks like, but it sounds like what you're saying is take a device that might not be ChromeOS, flex it to ChromeOS on the fly so that he can use it. Is that what you meant?
Yep. And the best thing about that is it takes all of like 2 minutes to do, and all he needs is a USB device and that new device, the new endpoint in front of him. He can flex that device real quickly and then use that ability to log in within his environment and then enroll that device, or call IT really quickly and they can enroll the device very quickly as well.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
And we'll get to that point a little deeper in a few minutes, but that plus this is a very obvious result of the fact that Google understands that this digital workspace world is a asynchronous solution where there's this stuff coming out of the cloud, stuff coming out of your data center, but that endpoint and the flexibility of that endpoint is still part of the equation, and they're embracing that.
Absolutely.
So Andrew, help me out what slides I need to be on as I try to navigate this for you.
The next slide should be auto updates.
Yep, it is.
All right, perfect. So remember when I talked about the power of control, let's talk about auto updates. One of the biggest things that I will always advise a client, Jeremy will advise a client, and so will Andy, is be on the latest version of ChromeOS and Citrix for the sake of things to work properly. But if you're like many organizations, they want to test out that update before you roll out to your organization. You have the power here with IT. By selecting allowing the updates, your teams will always be secure with the newest update. One thing you'll probably see here is that one of the features is auto inherited by Google. As I spoke of before, this is where our customers told us these are some of the settings that they would use on a normal basis. These settings were set up by default, and you can change them to utilize the latest version or the newest version of the updates when they come out. So again, power of choice. All right, so let's talk a little bit about printing, because this is a hot topic for customers, right?
Wait, nobody prints anymore. What are you talking about?
Some organizations still do, you know.
All organizations still print. Nobody wants to admit it.
Exactly. Many organizations want the control so that their data isn't leaving the organization. Take a healthcare customer. They might not want their staff using any printing abilities, whereas a contact center might need access to printing in a certain area in the call center. These are all choices that can be managed organizationally, as well as auto-inherent to each person in the organization. You can name the printing stations, you can turn on and off access at times and dates that choose for you, or have them access printers at any time. Again, it's power of choice, and it's all in the customer's hands.
So here's a dumb question, because I don't print as much as I used to, but I do have a Pixel book, and I've always wondered, like, how do print drivers work on a Chrome OS device? Is it they're all baked in? There's like, how does that work?
Yep. So one of the biggest things with printing is you can easily go, and this is the great power of the admin console, which I love. Say, for instance, you have an older printer, it's not set up like it normally is. You can actually click on the printer by going into the print services section, typing the information in. If for some reason it doesn't come up, you can click on the help me now, and it will actually take you to the Google support page to help you go through that whole piece of it as well.
And Andrew, I think some element of this is related to cups and what cups brings to the standardization around enterprise printing.
Correct.
Yeah.
All right. So now we've looked at the fun stuff. We've set up organizational units. We've been able to configure some security settings, set up your printers. Now let's turn on the power of Citrix. Under the apps and extensions setting, you have the ability to choose either web applications or SaaS applications to install from the Google Play Store or the Chrome Web Store. You would select the Chrome Web Store to download the latest version of Citrix Workspace app. Once you've selected this, you will see on the right side of the page the ability to copy and paste in your JSON file. Now, this is where XenTegra comes in, because we do have some customers that have some problems pasting in JSON files because maybe you don't have the experience writing a JSON file. Andy's group was absolutely there to help you with these needs.
Yeah, I've been playing with this myself personally for a little over 10 years now.
So,
All right.
so real quick, we do have a question in the chat here. So this goes back to printing, and it's about, can we do any sort of, from that admin console for printing, is there any way to identify geolocated printers? Like, so for instance, I happen to be in a certain office, my East Coast office, I want to print there. I'm in the West Coast office, I want to print there. Is there a way to make that?
Absolutely. So the great thing about the printing section, you can name printers. So say, for instance, if your organization names printers outside of them, say they say, this is the west side of the building's printing section, and this is printer Atlas, printer Beta, printer Calcal. Those you can set up that way, or I cannot speak today, I apologize. Any geolocation. So if you have printers set up in your India offices versus your Philippine offices, you can set them up that way as well.
Was good. Thank you for asking that question. Please ask more. The more we ask, the more conversational this becomes.
Absolutely. All right, so let's talk a little bit about security policies. And you're probably going to ask why I put this out here for you guys so that you know. The reason why security is so important in this environment, you have security settings and layers upon layers of security settings from Citrix, and then also layers upon layers of security settings from Google. So let's talk a little bit about how Citrix brings the power of advanced security through secure browser and secure internet access. Within secure browser, it adds that extra security layer. And when configured, every time a user opens either a SaaS application or internal web app, you can create a new isolated web browser running on the Citrix cloud. The web app runs in a sandboxed environment in the cloud so that no code reaches to the endpoint. And we can say that we are streaming the content them on the web, but the browser then is destroyed after use and a new instance for each app access. The best part is the security features brings a new layer of security. So there's the ability to isolate browsing from the company network. You can protect user and enterprise from web-based threats. You also have enhancement security policies, such as displaying the username or IP watermarking for your company. You have copy and paste options that's controlled by policies. There's no files or data that will reach the corporate network. And then you can also keep possible attacks contained in the cloud. Jeremy, is there anything you want to add here?
Yeah, and just to, if we threw another bullet on here, it would probably be just clientless access to that internal app as well. So, what you got posted here is intra, which probably means the intranet, right? So as opposed to, having to fire up a VPN, connect back into that internal web app. Listen, you could do this with XenApp or, virtual apps where you're publishing a web browser, but what we're doing here is clientless access from this isolated browser, and at the same time applying a lot of those same security policies that you might do on a virtual app session, a virtual desktop session. So again, maybe killing the VPN as a part of this process.
Yep, absolutely. Secure internet access actually protects from external and internal threats. It monitors the Chromebook traffic from and to the internet while analyzing all the data in transit and protecting it in real time. One of the big advantages is that you can access from any location. Previously, companies were using the internal corporate networks to protect their traffic. With secure internet access, you have the protection from any location, whether it's your home office, an airport, a train station, or even a coffee shop. Secure internet access provides a cloud secure web gateway that can block access to inappropriate web content based on categories such as adult, gaming, weapons, games. You also have privacy and remote access tools. You can block potentially dangerous connections, analyzing all the data in transit, and preventing any malware or malicious code reaching to the actual Chromebook. You can isolate and test suspicious URLs in a cloud sandbox, block access to personal accounts like personal Gmail accounts. You can block file uploads to storage accounts like Dropbox, get very granular on your controls with social media apps and disable LinkedIn jobs, or detect sensitive data in flight by protecting against any data exfiltration. Jeremy, am I missing anything?
No, I think you nailed it. I guess I am kind of curious to know, I know there are some browsing features baked into Chrome OS and the Chrome browser itself. Maybe this slide hits on that a little bit, but what is sort of inherent to Chrome OS as well, just from protecting users and maybe where they head to?
Well,
Yep.
Can I just
Go
state
ahead.
one obvious thing real quick, which I'm sure our listeners will get? The fact that it's not the widely used, very capable, but capable of being used maliciously other operating system is a massive first step. Wouldn't you guys agree? Then,
Absolutely.
then you factor in all this other capability and intelligence. Go ahead, Andrea.
All right, so let's look at Google and how they bring in the power protection in those security layers. I'm going to start off with verified boot because this is one of the big security protectors. It protects against dangerous attacks by ensuring that the firmware and the operating system have never been tampered with or corrupted in any way after a reboot. So you always have the current version of the OS running for your end users. It detects malware and stops the reboot process when threats are identified. It reboots the device with a version of the writable firmware and operating system. It also enables employees to avoid work required to remediate compromised firmware and files. In every Chromebook, you have the power of the Titan C chip, a continuous security option that's designed and updated by Google so you're always protected for the most recent threats. It gives user protection to the endpoint to protect from logins on remote devices, brute force attacks, and phishing scams. And this right here is where I want everyone to know. Within Google, Google's never had a malware attack, but they've also never had a phishing attack as well. The reason is because the system integrity ensures that the OS and the encryption keys have not been compromised and enforcing policies remotely. Also, with the data and security settings, all ChromeOS devices encrypt user data and settings. All the data settings are encrypted with a unique key that makes it harder for the attacker to need both the user password and access to a security module. The encryption cannot be disabled on this, so it allows colleagues to share loaner devices safely and adopt grab-and-go practices. This is something we do at Google many times. I leave my Chromebook at home. When I go to one of the Google offices, I can grab a different Chromebook, log in with my user credentials, and still be able to work full-time. There are sandboxing and site isolation options, just like you have within Citrix, which limits sandboxing will limit the security threats to a single application and the browser tab to keep the rest of the operating system secure. You also have site isolation, which keeps all processes within each browser tab separating and stopping malicious sites from the rest of the OS. Jeremy, to get back to your comment, two-factor authentication and single sign-on options protect employees against phishing attacks by turning on two-factor authentication, requiring users to provide a password and authentication key or code when logging into their Google accounts. You can set up parameters for remote access for SAML-based single sign-on. so users can access the network and web applications with the right balance of security and convenience, as well as enroll special user accounts into the Advanced Protection Program. This is our new free program from Google that provides two-factor authentication in addition to other protections.
Hey guys, can we talk about that one real quick? Because I want to give a little bit of commentary on that one. That digital workspace conversation from earlier, whatever you're using for your single identity, that's really important. I'll just load a question here, Andrew. What should we protect with two-factor authentication? The answer is everything, right? Everything possible. Now, do I want my users to have to go to 15 different places during the day and have to authenticate multi-factor every time? Ideally not, right? We have to take that one identity. We have them come into one digital workspace, aka Citrix Workspace, and then from there they get challenged to verify themselves with multi-factor, and then from there on they can then go to everything else in that solution stack without having to multi-factor. But because we put it in the digital workspace experience coming in, we've multi-factor challenged everything without annoying our users.
Exactly.
That to me, a happy user is the real reason why I use a digital workspace, because we're in a world now where we have to challenge everything with security postures. At the same time, we got to keep end users happy.
Yep. And studies say that 40% of workers, if they're not happy with their IT within the things they have to utilize for work, will leave an organization. So we definitely don't want that happening for our customers.
So Andy, here's a good question. So this is in the Q&A, right? So listen, I've been using ChromeOS for a while, but there's a real shift in the mindset of, how do you transition folks from the mindset of I have to have Windows, I have to have the apps on the endpoint, to maybe a different model here. Can you talk through maybe what some of those conversations look like?
Yeah, I've had it twice in the last 24 hours. It's a balance, right? Because we've got to somehow convey to our users that giving them a Windows endpoint with potentially admin rights, with every possible capability under the sun to be used in a positive way and in a negative way, can have such a ramification on the company, plus potentially a scenario where they're out of a machine for days at a time if they were to have an issue. If we get to a delivered compute experience and then we can mitigate that endpoint, then we've got a situation where in the grand scheme, company still in business because they didn't get ransomware every other month, company able to provide and it's one of the things I like about the Google approach is it's a consumer oriented product that can get things done in the enterprise. So, is having a Windows device, the minute you get it out of the box and turn it on, the happiest user possible? Maybe. What's that user experience going to be like in 6 months? Well, it might take 15 minutes just to log in. So it's a combination of long-term success, company health, versus this implied world of, hey, I just got my brand new laptop. Can't wait to take it to vacation and use it for my own personal use. Which, by the way, if it's a Google device, that enable them to use it for their own personal device for use, all of a sudden it became more real. Now you may not choose to do it, but you've certainly mitigated the concern you have of them taking that thing, and using it personally. Jeremy, the answer is it depends.
It does depend. It does.
But there's no lying. If you can't give everybody Windows for their endpoint anymore, which you should not. And you definitely should not do it and put a VPN client on it. I run into that daily still, and it drives me nuts. Let's give them something that's still very user-friendly, but capable, but mitigates the security risk all at the same time. And I like to think a rational employee would get that. And by the way, Jeremy, what do most average users do on their Windows computer most of the day?
They browse the web. They use a browser. I won't say browse the web. They use a browser. They
likely use the Chrome browser to look at Amazon or whatever it is they're personally doing. Hey, this thing does that great. In fact, it does it natively. That's my argument.
Well, the great thing is they can still utilize all those legacy Windows apps on their Chromebooks. So, Andy, next slide shows our customers today what the actual end user will see when they actually get their Chromebooks. So the biggest thing that Andy was talking about earlier is the simplicity and easeability to utilize these Chromebooks and get them up and going. Speed is one of our big factors. Once you hit that getting started button, you click on your Wi-Fi device, enter in a password to that Wi-Fi device. The next step is use your login credentials, whether it be single sign-on, multi-factor authentication. And guess what? This is what it looks like.
Andrew, remind me, and I should know this. It's been I literally have a Chromebook. I don't have it right now because I left it at home for my wife to use while she's traveling this week, because it's simple, easy, just works. To get into onboarding, which you've talked about a little bit, into the Google admin world, is it? It's not a certain version of Chrome. It's just making sure that the thing is enabled for an enterprise authentication login at first run, or the user does it, one or the other.
Yep. So basically they would just need their user credentials to log in if they want to do it that way, or if they use a single sign-on option, you can use that with the security YubiKey, whatever they use within their environment to get started.
So going back to something you talked about ago, I log in with my company credentials and it automatically knows, oh, this thing is supposed to be managed. I'm going to onboard you. Done.
Correct.
Awesome.
And all your applications, if you go to the next slide, you'll see that power of Citrix and Google Chrome together. That's all there. That's what the user is seeing. Whether you're using the Chromebook, a Chrome base, a Chrome box, or a tablet, that workspace application is sitting on top of there with the experience for the customers with secure internet access, the ability to have analytics and security. They can still use that Chrome browser, as Jeremy mentioned, because that's what generally most users are using daily. And the great thing about this is today with Citrix is they can customize that environment to be special and set up for their end users, so it's easy and accessible to any apps and desktops.
Let's talk about this conceptually for a minute, because there was a point in time where, you know, maybe Google wasn't so embracing of the Windows world, the legacy x86 application world. And what's happened over the last, let's say, 7 years is Google and Citrix realize how badly they need each other, because we need this secure endpoint solution. We need this natively managed endpoint solution. Meanwhile, the world of people adopting Google technologies, they still need that legacy x86 application, as well as a way to get to SaaS world that's monitored and controlled and high performance and single sign-on, all these things we've been talking about. It really is a blend of two companies that realize how important it is to work together to solve end user or company challenges in such a way that it's still end user friendly and secure and enterprise ready all at the same time.
Yep. And we worked on the Microsoft Teams optimization highly and heavily last year, and we continue to work on that every single year going forward, so that user experience is set up for them and that power to help them get to utilize those legacy applications are there.
Yeah. And
So
if you asked me a year ago, that's the one I said, no, they'll never fix that. They don't want you to do that. But then I said, absolutely. Now they're fixing that too. So where you can have that high fidelity unified communications experience on a Chromebook. Jeremy, go ahead.
So, you know, obviously right now we're looking at a Chromebook that's got Workspace, you know, already installed, right? So there is a Workspace app for ChromeOS. But are there any others? So Fernando has the question, are there any other third-party vendors that are pre-configured on this device? So Workspace app for one, Imprivata is another. You know, what comes pre-installed, if anything? And secondly, what can I push out? Where does that come from?
Sure. Imprivata is definitely a really easy setup, complete configuration, easy to go. We're utilizing Zoom right now. Zoom is an option within Chrome to be able to use unified communications. They're looking for their Slack environments, easy enough to just grab that application and put in their user credentials like they normally do and get that up and going. Because that power of everything being in the cloud, being in the web apps or into the Chrome Play Store, they can go ahead and choose those options of what they want that user's experience to look like and what applications they actually need.
So how do we update those, right? Because, you know, one of the biggest tasks we have as administrators is not only the first install, but keeping it patched and updated. What does that look like for a lot of these apps?
Yep. So you can choose to utilize this portion within the admin console to organize your applications, and you can force them to auto update if you want to, or force them to stay on current version of where you guys are at until a company needs to roll out and has tested their environment before they roll out to the next update. So that can all be managed within the remote console.
So much like with the ChromeOS itself, where before I think you showed the console where I could stage my updates and go, hey, we want to test out, IT wants to test out this version before we go live with it. We can do that with any of the apps we push out as well.
Absolutely.
It's super powerful to have this world of Citrix comes together with this very capable, secure endpoint device operating system with this ecosystem of growing applications in its store that you can easily push out and manage, including the Citrix Workspace app. It's pretty dang compelling. All right, Andrew.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and skip this slide. We're kind of getting close to time here. I wanted to talk a little bit about Flex because this is Andy's favorite item of all things. And this is something that really puts us in the market so that those Windows users who love their Windows laptops, but they're no longer using them, can go ahead and flex over those devices and be able to utilize the power of ChromeOS within their Windows device, whether it be a PC or a Mac or anything client.
Well, I want to highlight for this group, right? This whole conversation has been about the power of ChromeOS and Citrix. It's not been about the power of a Chromebook. I mean, that's a specific form factor. This is where, yet again, Google realizes that there's a need to solve a challenge in the workplace. First of all, we've been talking about as a service type things, whether it's GCP, whether it's Workspace, whether it's ChromeOS being managed as a service. That's awesome. And then at the same time, about, I don't know, a year or so, Andrew, you can keep me honest on the date, Google realized they had this really powerful thing, which became ChromeOS Flex, where you can take existing computer form factors and you can replace that very heavy, burdensome, attackable operating system with a Chrome OS operating system using Flex. And Andrea, I believe it's totally free to do this, right?
Oops, sorry. Yes, absolutely.
So totally free to do this. The cost comes in when you add it to that management cloud platform, bringing it in like we've talked about so far with everything else. But the fact that Google sees this need to take legacy or even brand new hardware and bring it into the Google ecosystem and manage it the way we've been talking about here today as a flexible path forward, even if it means not buying new hardware for another 2, 3, 5, 10 years, who knows, and then leveraging Citrix on top of that. That's just yet another sign that they get it, that Google gets it. They get it because they do this. They get it because they natively manage the stuff in the cloud as a service, and they get it because they're partnering with Citrix to enable that enterprise workloads to come to this non-x86 platform. This platform.
And the great thing about this is if you guys stay tuned to our series, you will see that the next series will focus completely on ChromeOS Flex and how you can utilize those. If you have any questions in the meantime, definitely reach out to Andy and his team.
So real quick, because I am curious, right? So I'm on the ChromeOS Flex website. It looks like I have two options. I can either download this guy to a USB stick and install it, or almost do like a live USB run of it where it doesn't actually install. It just runs off the USB, so I can sort of try it without doing anything to my hardware, correct?
Yes, absolutely. It's great. And it takes no time at all. It's very quick, easy, and within less than 3 minutes, you can flex over a device.
And Jeremy, imagine we go back to pandemic times and we have to do something like that again. You just send somebody home with a bootable USB running Chrome OS that's managed, that has the Citrix Workspace app on it, and you're back in business.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful. That's slick. I like that.
It's awesome. Okay, Andrea, how are we doing on slides and time?
There's only 2 slides left, and they're really just use cases. It's up to you if you want to go further. We're right at time.
Let's just go real quick.
Okay, perfect. So a couple things here for you guys to know is there's many different use cases, but this particular use case, a large healthcare organization needed their 3,000 plus employees to have the power to work from home without sacrificing any of their security or compliance controls. And with nothing storing on their devices, getting updates to the OS, as well as their apps and desktops to be configured automatically, IT still was having the ability to have their granular control policies in there. We were able to go ahead and use the power of Citrix DAS, providing them the access to Epic, Windows applications on all their ChromeOS devices, giving the agents in the office the experience right from their home. And with the power of the Google Workspace, they were able to collaborate on docs, use video conferencing services, and utilize productivity tools. The central management console from ChromeOS devices conserved them the time by deploying in less than 2 weeks. They were able to do configuration of Imprivata identity and multi-factor authentication integration, which was seamless, while providing access to other critical apps without sacrificing security.
That's awesome.
All right, this last one is actually a financial company that came to us during the pandemic, frantic on how they could get their 6,000 plus employees from US, India, and the Philippines to work from home. As Andy mentioned, this was a huge opportunity. And sometimes today, this is where customers are wanting to stay within this as well. They needed the ability to access all the types of applications, including Windows legacy applications. They needed support for power users with their CAD options and imaging applications, and also access to Windows Desktop. They utilized single sign-on for each unique user experience with critical apps and desktops. And with Citrix DAS and ChromeOS, they were able to convert every employee in less than a month with new endpoints and updated credentials, safe to work from home. And also they were giving the same at-work user experience with more flexibility in the working environment while still protecting their company information. And these are just a few of the use cases that we were able to solve with the power of Citrix and ChromeOS. So Andy, how would they get started with you guys?
Absolutely. Reach out to XenTegra. You go to info@XenTegra.com, reach out to us that way. You can hit me up personally on LinkedIn. I'm sure there will be some degree of follow-up after this presentation with us reaching out to people and talking about potential demos and proof of concepts. And guys, honestly, I love this space. I eat, sleep, breathe it. If you'd like for me to jump on a call or meet you in person and kind of whiteboard it out and what it might look like, I'd be super happy to do that. So reach out to someone at XenTegra. Info@XenTegra.com would be the most simple way to do it. Someone will follow up with this, and reach out to Google and Citrix as well. But absolutely love to help you. And we have a ton, literally a ton of users leveraging this solution today that we can help socialize with you what they're doing to be successful leveraging Google and Citrix. So guys, I guess that's it. Jeremy, anything we didn't cover that you want to cover?
Oh, there's always something to cover, but I'll hold the horses for today.
Yeah, we're going to do it again with the FlexOS overview, a deeper dive. Andrea, good job. Anything else?
No, thanks for having me. I'm glad and excited to help your customers get started with their Citrix and ChromeOS journey.
All right. Thank you guys. Thanks for doing this. We'll do it again in about a month, and then we'll dive into FlexOS.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Thanks.